Hey guys, good to be here this week. Big week going on, lots of moving parts, especially with the scent stuff that we're looking at right now. If you haven't made your voice heard, go to the proposal ORC8 and make your voice heard there. Happy to hear any new opinions on that one, but I think we're starting to form consensus around an idea now, which we're starting to push forward a bit more, so that's fantastic. On the session side, we have primarily been working on disappearing messages, and there's a few other things as well, push notifications being the other primary one that we're pushing forward. Push notifications is already done on iOS, but we're having some issues around the Huawei integration for push notifications. Primarily, it's based on concerns in terms of the build system. We want Huawei to be as far away from our build system as we can keep it. So we've been making some modifications there so that Huawei builds are very isolated from the Google Play builds and from the F-Droid builds, because obviously there's some people that would not be happy if Huawei code was showing up in their F-Droid builds, for example. So we're trying to do that to the maximum possible extent. And that should have been finished off yesterday, and the Huawei stuff, or the push notification stuff as a whole, is in review on Android now. And the Android team's also working on disappearing messages as well. That's pushing along nicely. As I said last week, we did a big overhaul of the build system in desktop, and people there are starting to move on to new tasks as well. So yeah, lots going on in the session land, and also on lib session as well, where moving into getting close to finishing off the closed group implementation in lib session. So we're actually getting some more components ticked off there too, which is fantastic. And yeah, that's probably the session side. On the Oxen side, as I said, the ORC stuff's going nice. We've been able to achieve a pretty nice gas optimization for the BLS signatures that we're looking at right now. So currently, before it was like the way that it worked is that you'd have to add up all of the BLS keys individually, and that would cause a pretty high gas cost each time you added a key. But now what we're doing is we're actually starting at a set number of nodes and then subtracting the nodes that aren't signing, which makes the process much more efficient, since you only need to do the subtractions to take away from the set of nodes that are signing. And in most cases, the service node network, you see 95% of service nodes signing or 99% of service nodes signing. So you only need to minus a few away from the active set, which makes it much more gas efficient. And that whole process is basically just looking at how can we communicate between the Oxen chain and the EVM chain if we were to do this sent idea as presented in ORC8. So that's moving along really nicely on the core side of things. And then we've got LokiNet as well. The libQUIC stuff's coming along well. We're still working on implementing libQUIC into LokiNet. That's coming along nice. And we also just made some recent changes in terms of the reliable communication layers that we use between the individual service nodes to communicate information like router contacts and other relevant metadata that the nodes communicate between themselves to be able to communicate with each other properly and make sure that they're encrypting information. So that's coming along nicely too. I think that's about it for this week, but big week, and hopefully I'll be here again to update you next week about what we're doing there as well. And I'll pass it over to Josh. Thanks, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Labs update, weekly Labs update. I'm your host for the marketing section, Josh. So last week, we really focused on creation and maintenance. They were the main focuses that we were focusing on, I guess. And that essentially means we were creating, all the forward progress that we needed for this new token branding change, moving across to the new token, while also making sure that all of the session content and, support around session didn't lag behind. So that essentially had the team split between, the new kind of branding strategy and also all the moving parts that went into stuff like the AMA video. So in terms of branding, we worked on new design iterations, trying to make things look a little bit better. tweak things, see how they play, while also playing with the idea of a more direct name, session token, for example, and seeing how that whole ecosystem fits in together, like directly tying everything to the session ecosystem more directly. But that, of course, means that the other products, for instance, LokiNet, has to become some kind of session named thing. So there's like a lot of moving parts in that decision. And so it's just us seeing how it works and seeing how it fits. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is try to make things a lot more cohesive. So there was a lot of work put into just moving things around and seeing how they fit there and playing with names in that regard. Yeah, that's what happened on that front. Then also in regards to the AMA, we went through collating and collecting all of the questions that you guys handed in the survey, as well as all the questions that we gathered up from socials. We managed to put them together to create about an hour's worth of us answering these questions. And so, yeah, last week we basically filmed that up, we edited it up, and we also created a blog transcription of the questions and answers for those of you that are more reading inclined. So that's what we did last week. And by the time you guys see this, if you're seeing me say this to you right now, we probably have already published the video. But yeah, that's what happened in regards to the AMA. We also prepped the next batch of, the new season of Session Tapes, our podcast. We put together a reach out package and a list of potential guests that we want to push this out to help spice up the new season. So that's what we did on that front. We also did some session interviews. And this is more on the support side, but session user interviews. So we interviewed a bunch of session users, and this is particularly to help align the development process with the actual users of Session to make sure that we're actually developing a product that people want and need. So yeah, that's been the busy week for us here in the marketing section. But hope you guys had a good week, and I'll see you next time.